Well, good morning, and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, fightbackmedia.com, and fightbackmedia.com. Wow. Folks, for archive's sake, it's May 22nd, 2025. We've got some pretty serious business to unpack this morning. Overnight, and I do mean overnight because I was up at midnight or so and watching C-SPAN, and as the Rules Committee was battling back and forth about the final wording of this bill, the one big beautiful bill, they worked into the morning hours. It's kind of nice to see people working, people actually working. So because they're all trying to get this done before they go home for Memorial Day break that happens next Monday. And I gotta say, Mike Johnson cracked the whip, got it done. So in an overnight, in a razor thin vote, they were able to pass what I think is President Trump's legacy piece of legislation, potentially. It was not without pain and agony. The one that we talked about yesterday, called the One Big Beautiful Bill, which is so Trump, right? They passed it by a single vote. The vote count, when it was all said and done, was 215 to 214. One single vote. And let me tell you, like we talked about before, it's not just a tax bill. It's a full-blown blueprint for a second Trump-era America. Now, this is part of the reason why the left is fighting it so much, because this is, like I said yesterday, this is Trump's Obamacare. This is Trump's Obamacare, because it's everywhere. Everywhere. Over 1,000 pages. Everywhere. Here's what the deal. The bill's key provisions are the baby bond program called Trump accounts. Yes, baby bonds. Remember saving? Some of us are old enough to remember savings bonds. Your grandma would buy you a savings bond and put it away, and then you could take it out when you're 18, and then you'd have money, right? Maybe. But that's the concept here. The concept is a baby bond program, and of course they call them Trump accounts, right? So there's some GOP infighting behind the scenes, and the business world is growing weird about the future of the Republican coalition, and we'll talk about how the Dow reacted at the end of the video, so you can get the most updated thing, so we can make sure that we can let you know if the Dow likes it or if the Dow doesn't like it, like the Dow matters long term. Anyway, let's talk about this one big beautiful bill. President Trump promised a bold change in his second term, and the one big beautiful bill is his legislative wrecking ball. Let's talk about what's in it. It is first an extension of the 2017 Trump tax cuts for individuals and corporations. Something that the left hates because, they kept saying it's peanuts for individuals. Well, it's peanuts for them because they make a bunch of money, because most of them are millionaires. But for the average Joe, any cut in their income tax is appreciated. Any bit of relief is appreciated. Thank you. Any bit of relief is appreciated. And when there are cuts in corporate taxes, I think it's from 20 to 15%. We talked about yesterday. uh, guess what? That cost doesn't have to get passed on to the consumer. So it's a double win for the consumers when they get a break in their income tax, and corporations do as well. And corporations take that money. It isn't extra money. They take that money and they invest it back into the corporation. So we have jobs, we have materials, we have stuff, we have companies investing their stuff back into their own companies and not charging the consumer. So it's a win-win. It really is. All right, now the elimination of clean energy tax credits from the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. We're not sure how this is. I'll be honest with you, because that's what we do here. I'm not sure how this is going to work out. You know, when I drive around my neighborhood, I see a whole bunch of people, and I live in a modest, I'll say it that way, modest neighborhood. A lot of people have these solar panels on their roof. My across the street neighbor does. And they were sold, a lot of them were sold with the promise of the government giving people tax credits for them. Well, according to the big beautiful bill, that's over. So they're not going to get tax credits for it anymore. So it's going to take longer, if at all possible, for these things to pay for themselves, if they ever do, if they were ever going to pay for themselves. Some people aren't going to be happy. I told you there will be turbulence. This is my favorite. A new, quote, Trump account. This is the baby bond account. For every baby born between January 1st, 2025, and I think December 31st, 2019. $1,000 per newborn. Now, what happens there is that money is put in an account. It's like a bond. Like a lot of people don't know, especially young people, don't understand what savings bonds were, because you had e-bonds that were for education that you could buy, and the government would pay you some interest. You have to hold on to the bond for, I don't know, 10, 15, 18 years, or however long, until the person was an adult, and then they could cash that bond in. And people used to get them as birthday gifts. Wedding gifts. You would give, somebody who had a baby a savings bond for the child, and you could give them in a lot of denominations. You could get a $20 bond, and of course, the $20 bond didn't, at the end of 18 years, didn't pay a whole lot, but that money was there. Or you could get a $100 bond. I think $100 was probably the most popular, and of course, the rich relatives would get a $1,000 bond, right? Well, now everybody born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2029, if this bill passes the Senate, will be able to have $1,000 savings bond, really. Now, this bond can be used for college. It can be used for starting a business, that kind of thing, okay? But it's waiting for you. And everybody who will be born in the next 4 years in the last Trump era, and this is more evidence for me that Donald Trump had never planned on trying to change the Constitution or ignore the Constitution and run for a third term. No, because this is all stuff that is going to be in this term. This is all gas, no brake. Remember that phrase that I heard from our friend Paul Swanson of the Swanson Report? All gas, no brake. All gas, no brake. Right? For every child born. So we're talking about an entire generation of folks who will get this benefit. These families who will get this benefit. And the idea is that, you know what, during this time, their parents and them, because of the of debt and of international debt or national debt, and these things have been sort of screwed. But at least as these things get better, they'll have some recompense. And we're talking about every American baby born. This is why this, these anchor baby stuff got to stop. Because I don't mean to be ugly, but this ain't for you. This ain't for you to come from another country, have your baby here, and be part of this program. No, 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 no. This is for American children. Now, if you are here in the country legally, and you are a citizen, and your baby is born here, then yes. If you are on a green card and you are not a citizen, or you are here on a visa, or you are here illegally, no, not for you. This is not your money. This is not your money. It is not. I just thought about it. It's kind of interesting that, when I remember 30 plus years ago when my son was born, that we left the hospital. We didn't have an official birth certificate, but we did have? Social Security number. So they were all ready to, the government was all ready to get their money from this baby, right? From this baby. They were ready. But at least now, when parents leave the hospital, they'll leave the hospital with the Social Security number and a baby bond for their child, an investment. And hopefully will encourage parents, as things move forward, to also invest in their children's future in the very same way. Here in Florida, and I'm sure in a lot of other places, we have this thing called prepaid, college tuitions. It is the smartest thing ever. That when a child is born, you can start paying for, or if you have the ready cash, pay for their college education at today's prices. So when they get there 18 years from now, 19 years from now, all you'll have to worry about along the way is making sure they have grades to go. All you have to worry about. Which is enough. You won't have that, why does this cost so much? You can pay for, in Florida, you can pay for tuition for 2 years or 4 years. You can pay for housing for 2 years or 4 years. Wow. It's smart. It's smart. And this Trump account, these baby bonds for Trump account, sort of goes along with that same mentality. Plan now for a better future. All right, speaking of planning now for a better future, in 2029, there's going to be a work requirement for people on Medicaid and SNAP who are able-bodied. Because why? Because work is dignity. Now, part of that work is a regular job, because we talk about the working poor all the time. And my feeling is that a lot of people on Medicaid are already working, so it's not going to be that big a deal. You're not going to be dragging people out of their houses to some gulag where they can break rocks for the government. That's not going to happen. The left will have you believe that that's what's next, but that's not what's next. That's stupid, right? Because a lot of the people on Medicaid right now are what we call in this country the working poor. They're already working. It's not a problem. People who are on food stamps or SNAP, a lot of people are already working. This is to take the last few people who are able-bodied, who can, and give them the dignity of work. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to go to work for some company at minimum wage and slave. That's not it. They can also volunteer. And here is the number of hours a month they have to work. 80. 80. That's 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week. Yes, 5 hours a day. If you average it out. They can work at a regular job, or they can volunteer. So if you can't work at a regular job, maybe on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you can volunteer somewhere. 5 hours one day, 5 hours or 10 hours, right? You can make it work. It's 20 hours a week. You can make that work. And right now, this isn't going to go into effect until 2029. You have a lot of time to plan. And organizations that are out there have a lot of time to make it easy, and that's part of the problem, but make it easy for people to get volunteer hours. Easy for people who are on Medicaid or SNAP to get volunteer hours. And think about it. You can stay on Medicaid and work. Get extra money, get extra bag, and not lose your benefits. Same thing with SNAP. And I know that a lot of us say it, that that work is dignity because we work. But you know what? You are going to feel better about yourself that you went out there and you did something in an honest day, and you got paid for it. That's the best thing. The best thing ever. All right. And also, this big, beautiful bill has increased funding for border security and defense. Yes, because it all fits together. If you don't have border security, then people will continue to sneak over the border for all sorts of reasons, have their children here. And that sounds crazy. That sounds like tinfoil hat stuff, but it's actually happening. That's the crazy part. It's actually happening. And have their babies here, and just because they're going to get that $1,000 per newborn. Now, of course, we know that it's going to take 18 years to cash in. 18 years to cash in. But not everybody understands that. And why complicate the situation? The whole birthright citizenship thing, if you could get rid of it and only deal with children who are children of American citizens, makes it a lot simpler, right? So let's go ahead and do this. But crazy enough, passing it wasn't easy. The GOP majority is razor thin. And some people, some of the squishy moderates, they weren't thrilled. There was some arm twisting, there were some deals, because that's how the process works. But in the end, it passed. All right. I've already talked about this. I've already talked about the most, and because the most talked about provision is the baby bonds, the Trump accounts, right? I still think that would be fantastic. Again, it could be used for college, it could be used for home ownership. Wow. Or starting a business. Think about, and I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I think it's really cool. Think about, you have $1,000 in an interest-bearing account for 18 years, because what we've said forever is, when we're talking about investments, what young people have is two things. They have time and interest rates. That's what they have. They have time and interest rates. So the younger you get started, the better off. And if you can start at birth, game changer. Game changer. My good friend, who has passed away, my good friend Jamie Osborne. I miss Jamie. Jamie was cool. Jamie died of Lou Gehrig syndrome in his 50s. Some things ain't fair. In any case, when he got his first job, he graduated. We graduated from high school at the same time, but he got out of college before I did. A lot of people did. Anyway, when he started talking about saving up for a house, when he started learning about, and this was in the 80s. These aren't so good now, but started talking about money market accounts. And he explained, we talked about money market accounts, And I got to talk to his financial advisor at the time. We talked, and what the deal was that he said, if you could start now when you're 21, 22 years old, the advantage that you have with money market accounts and IRAs and that kind of thing, when you're ready to retire, is immense, and only because you have time and interest rate and time work in your benefit. And this is when, in order to buy a house, you had to have 20% down, even with interest rates like they were. You really had to have 20% down if it wasn't going to be, if it was a conventional mortgage, if it wasn't a VA or a FHA, 20%. Imagine now having to have 20% down to qualify for a mortgage. When you're talking about the average price of homes in areas being $250,000, you would have to pony up 20%. Most people can't do that now. But back then, my friend Jamie took all of this to heart. Not some Dave Ramsey nonsense, because Jamie lived his life and had fun, traveled and had a good time, but took that to heart and invested over time. And when it came time for him to buy his first home, he wasn't able to pay for it cash, but he was damn sure well over the 20% needed to put down to buy his first house, which made his mortgage payment really small. He was smart. I miss Jamie. Jamie was really, really smart. So the deal is, if you can start at birth with $1,000, which doesn't seem like a whole bunch. Now it's going to be a whole bunch when you talk about the number of babies born. That's for sure. But if you can start with $1,000, and in 20 years, that money's going to grow. It's not going to. I mean, it's not going to be huge gains. I mean, every year you're not going to have $1,000 the first year and $10,000 the second year. That's not how life works. But it's going to constantly grow. Constantly grow. And you take that next amount and you reinvest it, and it reinvests and it reinvests. It's compound interest until when you're 18, that money, adjusted for inflation, is going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference in the lives of real people and real families. Critics are calling it vote buying. Vote buying for who? For who? He's not going to run for president again. He'll be 80. He'll be 80. And by then, just like Obamacare, this one big beautiful bill will be part of the infrastructure, the internal infrastructure of government. It's not going anywhere, right? Supporters say it's economic justice for the next generation. But here's the real takeaway. Trump's playing the long game. He's offering parents something tangible during uncertain times. And it's hard to argue with that politically or morally. Here's something real that I'm giving you. Here's something real that we're doing for each other. And of course, it isn't just MAGA parents that get the money, or Trump supporters. Everybody gets, every child born. Every child in America born to American citizens. How it should be. The real dreamers. Now, this 215 to 214 vote wasn't just tight. It wasn't just close. It was nearly a nightmare. Because behind the scenes, the Republican Party is still wrestling. It's still fighting. Now, this is funny because we talk about this all the time on this program. We talk about the difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. And people say, well, there isn't any difference. There is. And here's the main difference. Republicans are willing to hash it out and draw a line in the sand, even if it hurts the whole. Democrats, it's been my experience, at the end of the day, if the party whip says, we got to vote this way, they may argue a little bit, they may fuss a little bit, but at the end of the day, they get in line. Everybody gets in line. Not so with Republicans. Not so. Some of the hardcore conservatives like Chip Roy, they're not going to get in line. They're just not going to get in line. They'll vote present. They'll say, hey, I was here. I saw it happen. Good luck. Because their constituencies aren't like Democrat or leftist constituencies. They want to hold their elected officials accountable. Because you said this, because we heard you, and now guess what? We have all sorts of ways to record you saying this or that, and then you go to Washington and then you do that and the other. Not going to work out. And the most conservative of the representatives know that. Hell, even the squishies know that they got elected by a bunch of Republican squishies, and they expect squishy Republican. They don't expect hardcore conservative from their representatives. So they're kind of boxed in. I think it's important to explain this sometimes, because I don't think a lot of people understand. I think people think that all the Republicans are the same and all the Democrats are the same, and that's not true. I think all the Democrats are the same. Now, if you think differently, you can write that in the comments. I think that all the Republicans are different, and they're in stratas. Texas Republicans can do and say stuff that Connecticut Republicans can't, or New Jersey Republicans can't. Not the same thing. This is why Chris, whatever his name, Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, is not Abbott or DeSantis. Not. From our standpoint, Chris Christie looks like a Democrat. From Greg Abbott's standpoint in Texas, Chris Christie looks like a Democrat. Doesn't he? Because he's a Republican. He's in the Republican Party. But he's not in the same Republican Party that Ron DeSantis or Greg Abbott is in. Not at all. Or Mike Johnson, for that matter. It's different. Isn't it? So, the Republican Party is still fighting, because there are people who are fiscal hawks. And the fiscal hawks are more the libertarian side, right? Chip Roy, those kind of people. And then some of the moderates, the squishies, we call it, really didn't like ditching the green energy tax breaks. Why? For the very same reason I just told you. A lot of people in my neighborhood here have those damn solar panels on their roof, and they were sold those solar panels because they were going to get a tax credit, and that was going to offset the cost. And now that's going to be gone if the president signs his one big beautiful bill. One big beautiful bill. That's one big beautiful bill. Like a song, right? So, and then there are what people are starting to call cultural conservatives. Those are the people who want things to change on a cultural basis, and we talked about this in a video before. Those are the social conservatives, right? Social conservatives, and they wanted tougher stances on immigration and CRT and this trans nonsense. That, so you have all these factions that you have to wrangle together. So Mike Johnson, it's like herding cats. It's like freaking herding cats, and sort of had to thread the needle to get all of it done. But don't mistake unity for peace, because just because it got done, there's still stuff going on under the surface still, and that's, and that's fine, and that really is fine. And of course, with the 2026 midterms already casting a shadow, tension is going to build a little bit. It just is. And that's fine too. All right. Let's look at something that maybe people didn't expect from big business. So the traditional alliance between Republicans and the Chamber of Commerce, not really, there had been traditionally, has been fraying for a while. Some business leaders are privately voicing concerns about new trade restrictions, right? Regulatory uncertainty, a tax system that's shifting towards families and away from multinationals. This isn't your father's GOP anymore. It's becoming a party of economic nationalism. America first, economic nationalism. And more important, middle America first. And so and some corporations, frankly, some of the multinationals are starting to have to rethink their loyalties. In short, the Reagan, Ford, Bush coalitions have been replaced by the Trump revolution. Again, this isn't just a piece of legislation, it's ideological transformation. The one big beautiful bill is a declaration that the Trump-era Republican Party is here to stay. Bold, populist, and unapologetically focused on the American worker and the American family. Whether you cheer it or fear it. One thing's for sure. Trump still controls the heartbeat of the conservative movement. All right. That's our morning report for today. For more breakdowns and other stuff, go to fightbackmedia.com. Subscribe to us on here on YouTube and on Rumble and on Spreaker. And remember, truth is not optional. My name is Willie Lawson. Just like always, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Thank you.